I'd like to call to order the PB Planning Board meeting held at City Hall, PB 24 Lowell Street at the Wigan Auditorium. First order of business is approval of the minutes, but the minutes are not available at this time. We'll move that to the next meeting. A&R and Land Court?
None.
None. Site building permit plan review? None. We do have one?
Yeah. 68 Prospect Street.
Oh, 68 Prospect Street is, yes, gentlemen, go. Presentation, 68 Prospect Street.
Good evening, I'm Joe Betancourt, design architect for 68 Prospect Street. It's a pleasure to be here tonight in person and share our progress with you. We've had some really good meetings to date, and we appreciate all the feedback. Our project team, Kevin Hoyle is our client. Jack Kelty, our attorney, is not here, but he said he may attend. Chris Mello is here with us tonight. And Tom McMullen, our landscape architect, was not able to make it tonight, so I'll do my best to go through the landscape as we go through the images. So coming off of our last meeting, there were a couple of items that were specifically asked for. One was a landscape plan, and the second was just more advancement on the lighting strategy. So we have done both of those, and you can see that on board number 5. So what I'll do is I'll walk through the boards and the packet that you have in front of you. I'll try to highlight some of those items just to address them as we go. So if you're following along and you go to page 2, on the project overview, most of this information is basically the same, just a couple of items that have been adjusted. Our building gross square footage went up by about 3,000 square feet to about 83,000, which bumped our FAR to basically 0.8. So we're well under that 1.0, so we're fine there. We are showing 32 townhouse-style units currently. All of these are 2 bedrooms, and all of these are owner-occupied. 20 visitor spaces, as with the previous plan. 2 of those are ADA compliant, and 6 affordable units are part of this project as well. If you flip to page number 3 in the packet, you see the general layout for the 5 buildings. So buildings 1 and 2 each will have 6 units. Building 1 will have 1 affordable unit, and everything that is within that red dashed line is basically part of phase 1. So all of Prospect Street, the sidewalk, that's all part of phase 1. The central commons that's highlighted in the middle is also part of phase 1. And then obviously building 3, 4, and 5 will follow. So flipping to page 4, which is actually the first board that you see up here. Again, fundamentally, the architecture has not changed since you saw it last. But I'd like to note that these views that you see here in front of you are all updated and coordinated with the landscape plan. So the trees that we're showing in the views are the trees that we are proposing, and they do coordinate with Tom's plan. And just to sort of recall the general section, which you can see in this board here, if you sort of trace that red line from left to right, we start at elevation 100. We descend down to the middle, the plateau, which is roughly elevation 93, and then continue to descend to the northern edge of the project. And as the grade continues beyond our site, it actually continues to descend roughly 15 feet down to Emery Street. And when we talk about the 4th board here, we'll get into sort of the privacy and how that actually helps us. So moving along to the second board here, this is a view from Prospect Street. So, you know, we all know that Prospect Street fundamentally is the most important edge from a public realm perspective. So we know it's in rough shape. The idea is that all of that is coming out, the wall, the landscaping, the whole sidewalk. And as illustrated here on the board, you know, the idea is to clean all that up, new stone wall, nice cap, have the wall actually trace into the entry. And then, you know, Tom has done a very nice job with the landscaping. So you can see in the image we've got a couple of beautiful blue spruces that kind of help frame that entrance. Some mini dogwoods and rhododendrons kind of trace along Prospect Street. And then flowering cherry trees, which you can kind of see off to the right. So he's done a beautiful job with the landscaping, and I think it'll totally transform that edge. So the next board, again, very similar to what you have seen before. This includes the additional unit. Again, all the landscaping is up to date. Basically, every other unit gets a tree. These are maple trees, the ones that you see in front of the units, and they will flower in the fall into red maples. You'll notice too that the central island, it was noted that we do have infiltration tanks under that planting, so Tom has minimized kind of the height and growth on top of that. So we've got some hydrangeas and some lilacs, which will be very nice. Board number 4. So these are the right-hand units. Again, you can see there's a consistency in the architecture, just kind of tracing the scale all the way through the project. You know, from a material point of view, we want to have stone at the base. We're using hardy plank up above, just a simple gray. And then we'll use white trim strategically to highlight some of the more important areas. And you can see that highlighted in some of the entry over the garage, for example. But we're still working on that. And it's on this board, board number 4, in that section on the left-hand side, that you can see kind of that grade sort of tapering down as it gets closer to Emery Street. We are proposing a 6-foot tall fence along that edge. Our plan is to offset the fence roughly 2 feet from the edge, and that will run the whole length of that edge. So it'll help privacy on our side as well as our neighbors. Excuse me. And then finally, board number 5, this is the landscape plan. I won't go through all of the details, but again, Tom has done a very nice job of really sort of pinpointing where each piece of landscape is going to go. We will include and are including a list of all the landscape elements as well as visuals for each of the planted items that you see on board number 5 and on the final page of the packet. Also on this diagram is just some general sort of notes on the lighting. We don't have the lighting fixtures picked out, but there are some things that we feel very strongly about. We definitely don't want any floodlights, no spotlights, nothing like that. We want to minimize the glare throughout the whole project. And you see some examples of sort of the light qualities that we're trying to achieve for the project. Mostly more understated, diffused, nice landscape lighting. Again, to keep the project sort of calm and quiet from a lighting perspective. So overall, and hopefully you get the sense from the images that we're showing you, you know, we're trying to make the project scale appropriate. We want it to fit in to the context. We love Emery Street. There's such a charm and kind of it's really well sort of landscaped and maintained. And we actually want to bring some of that charm up the hill a little bit and kind of almost mend that site so that it really feels more residential as opposed to the office building today. So that's our strategy. Any questions?
Have any questions from the board? Dr. Otto?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the extra work that you've done on landscaping and lighting and showing us those details, but I do want to observe to my fellow board members and the project team, there's not a chance in hell that I can read anything on this plant list.
I'm sorry?
Take a look at it. This is what we got, what was on our desks. This is a plant list. It's in like -16 point type.
Oh, okay.
And I did not see a plant list. Sorry, I did not see a plant list in the full-scale set.
You are correct. We do have a full-scale plan. I actually have one with me. But you're right, that I think graphically the text got a little bit fuzzy in the packet. So what we will do is we'll follow up and actually include 1 to, I believe it's 10 scale that I have for the record, so it's all in there.
It looks, by the way, very attractive. I don't necessarily have a plan, a specific question about the plant materials. Just want to observe that we don't have the same access to information as you do because we can't read it.
Okay, thank you for that.
Can I make one additional comment? I wonder if it is possible to reduce the amount of uplighting in favor of downlighting to support reducing light pollution in the city?
Sure. Again, we have not specifically gone into every area and looked at that, but absolutely. I think we can strategically, pick the points where we want to uplight so that it doesn't go past, let's say, the canopy of the tree. And where we can, we will wall wash and indirect light surfaces and things like that. I should point out too that I think we're showing 5 of the street lanterns, 10 to 12 feet. Again, we want to make sure that we minimize kind of the glare. We're seeing some of these lights, the LEDs that are just, they're very jarring actually. So part of the reason why we haven't selected the fixtures is we want to, do a little bit more due diligence and research to make sure that we minimize that glare. But from a scale perspective, I think board number 3 sort of illustrates kind of the look and feel that we're going for.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Joe?
Just 2 questions. First of all, in between each unit, it says there's 1 hour rating between each unit, double wall construction. I thought they changed that to 2 hours years ago. Isn't that 2 hours, 1 hour on each side? Yeah. It is 2 hours. Yeah, it says here 1 hour, so I don't know if that's...
Thank you for catching that, yes.
Yeah, I ran into that problem in Revere once, so...
Thank you, that was my typo.
Yeah, so you might just want to change that. And the other thing is, I noticed that in the attic it says potential study, so it's going to be possibly a potential living area to use for an office and so forth. So if you do use that for a study or an office, a home office or whatever, would there be a dormer attached to that, or would you have skylights, or what's your plan there?
Yeah, if we go to, no, it's okay, if we go to the attic. Yeah. So I think that note might be a remnant from back when we were having conversations about getting a stair to go up there. Our latest conversation, actually, we talked about not doing anything in the attic because we already have 3 floors, basically. So that attic would just be an extra floor.
So chances are you using truss up there, or are you going to use... Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, if you decide to do it.
Are you putting any skylights in up there or no? Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Go ahead.
Greetings.
Greetings.
Where do we stand with the peer review, more specifically the stormwater aspect of that?
Do you want to address that, Chris?
You got to, please. You're a movie star now, Chris.
I'll get behind here and nobody will know.
You'll be a
Thank you.
YouTube head.
We have submitted all of our plans and then the modifications, the review, the stormwater management package, and the sewer and water to the Department of Public Services. Will Politz has sent the the potable water and the sewerage to Ty and Bond and Weston and Sampson, which is normal because those are the companies that pretty much monitor and run the city's sewer and water. He has decided he would do the stormwater in-house, where we have very little runoff. We don't have a conservation issue, and we have our own stormwater infiltration system. And the traffic has been sent to Ken Cram of Mike Rizzo's firm, Bayside. So I'm sorry, I got a cramp there. Bayside Engineering. They had done the traffic review for the project just down the street on Prospect Street. So we decided, with Will's input, that they would be favorable, that they had all the traffic counts, and we just got a preliminary report in from them that basically, I read the last page, I'm sorry, that's all I did, and they recommended some signage, and we will go over that with Department of Public Services. So we're hoping at your next meeting, whenever that may be, that we will have those 4 things wrapped up.
Stormwater is my number one concern.
Stormwater, in this particular case, we had gone through, if you don't, you want me to continue with that?
Please.
Okay. We filed with the Conservation Commission for determination of applicability that their wetlands preservation was not going to be affected, and we would not be filing before them because we do not have a resource area within 100 feet. We are taking all of our excess stormwater and we are infiltrating the entire amount of water in underground Cultex systems. We don't have any open ponds, and we will have nothing of that sort. So, and that was, we kind of predetermined that with the Department of Public Services. We went through that with them so that we didn't design this 2 and 3 times. So I expect that that's going to come back with very little input, possibly some tweaking from Mr. Pollitt.
I'm sure we discussed this before, but what are the soil conditions now? This retention facility is going down 10 feet, 12 feet?
It's not retention, it's infiltration.
Infiltration, okay.
So it's basically, we have very permeable gravel at the top of that hill where Avalon built everything, and was pretty much very, very good gravel. We did, I don't know, about 20 test pits with a licensed soil evaluator. We've got all the data for that, and the water we put in will infiltrate through these systems for a 100-year storm and will not go off-site.
And this underground structure will be bottomless?
I'm sorry.
It will be bottomless?
It has a gravel bottom. It's an infiltration system so that the water flows into it. It has half-drum pipes for storage, but the bottom of those pipes is a bed of gravel. Below the bed of gravel is the permeable virgin soil from the site. So it all drains in, and it recharges, which is good for the groundwater.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes, Roy.
Thank you. Just a couple questions. I guess to dovetail on that stormwater, there's a north side swale, evidently, that leads into like a detention or retention pond on Avalon's land. That's all staying in place, right? You just can't add to it, is that correct?
We're not adding to it. That stormwater swale, if you will, runs on the northerly side of the property. It runs basically very, very flat, but it does run from east to west, or from Prospect Street to the rear of the site.
Yeah.
We will be clearing that, regrading it, and maintaining that. And what that effectively does, it takes the water that hits the ground behind the buildings and lets it go into there. The swale actually recharges. If for some reason it was frozen solid and you got a runoff, it would go towards the west of the property into the existing stormwater management facility on the Avalon property that they built for this facility, for the...
So that carried with the sale of the property. You guys still have the rights to use that?
Well,
Just
it was built as part of this project in the 80s, and it ran down to a swale that ran all the way down to Willowdale Ave. When Avalon built their project, they needed to reclaim the land that swale was on, so they built this small facility for it to go into.
Okay.
And we're gonna maintain it. We're gonna clean it up and maintain it. But all the roof water that currently goes in there from the existing building and some of the parking lot, all that's being taken and brought south to the infiltration system between the buildings.
Okay.
So we're taking an enormous amount of water out of that.
Right, but it's been working for years just the way it is.
Oh, it works perfect.
And you're gonna be putting less in there.
Right.
Okay. I noticed that last night at the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting, you guys didn't do a presentation there.
We did not. We continued. We did not open the hearing. and we're looking at our application. Our application for dimensional relief is twofold. In two places, we're looking for dimensional relief from setbacks for the buildings, which came about when we increased the units for the affordables. The second part of that dimensional relief is for decks. And that came because we were unclear as to the zoning interpretation for decks, residential decks that can intrude into the setback. PBD allows them to intrude 1/3 of the setback. And even though we're residential, we're not R1 or R2 or R3. It was rather unclear. We needed the other dimensional relief. We decided to apply for all of it. And right now, we're rethinking that and may modify those decks.
You may want to what?
We may want to modify the size of the deck so that they don't need a variance. The buildings still will. We will go forward at the next Board of Appeals meeting for the buildings.
Is it because of inability to interpret the zoning?
No, that's just the decks.
No, I understand. No, that's what I'm saying is that, is it the...
You know, we got an unclear response, and the zoning is a little, I don't want to say it's unclear, but you could interpret it either way. This project eventually has to be financed, and even if the building inspector said, yeah, I'm okay with that, honestly, I don't need a bank zoning lawyer in 3 months saying, geez, you really need to go back, because we don't agree with that. It's happened before, so we were erring with caution there. It's a tight line there.
Okay, I guess I'd hate to see you have to put in a tiny little deck there just to...
No, we're going back next meeting, and
Okay.
we'll go forward.
All right, and I'm not sure if you're the guy to know this question, answer to this question, but I see on a couple of your drawings here, it says the dimension of the units, or rough dimensions of the units, 26 foot by 40 foot, plus 2 foot bay. What does plus 2 foot bay
That's you.
mean? What is that? Is that a garage bay?
Yeah, so if you look at the renderings, see, so basically the building is the dimensions that you described, but we are popping out, like on the second floor, we have a bay.
Oh, so
Yeah,
like an overhang.
Yes, just like that.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So those are the basic dimensions.
Understood.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
I just have a couple questions. One, have you submitted these plans to Captain Dowling at the fire department, the new ones? Okay. Yeah, I'd like to make sure that he gets because there's some new turns in there that I'd like for him to look at. Second to that, I was looking at the new area for one of the units, the one that's, I guess to make it easy, at the back corner. What side is that? Is that north, right by Janice and Joseph McDonough's property? It shows 4-foot chain link fence on the plans. Is that going to be the case? You're going to have a chain link fence there?
Yeah, so there is a grade difference there. So that last unit is roughly, I think it's elevation 92, 93 to the top. But then there's a drop-off that gets down to that swale. It may be 3 feet, 3.5 feet. So I think when Chris called that out originally, it was with the intent to acknowledge the fact that there is a grade drop-off. Whether that's a chain link fence or some other type of fence, it's something that we will address. But we do acknowledge that there's a grade difference that's more of a drop, if you will, from the finished grade of that unit to the bottom of that swale.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure, because I know you're putting a fence then behind that fence. Correct? There'll be a 6-foot fence, maybe.
Yeah, so if you look at, it's hard to see from there, but if you look at board number 4, that's 6, so there's an existing fence. Remember, and I think you had raised that.
Yeah.
Up. So that existing fence actually is offset from the existing property line, I believe by 8 feet. about 8 feet. So we are essentially taking that down, and we are replacing or adding a new fence that is now 2 feet from the property line. So imagine that fence is, we're pushing that back essentially 6 feet. Yeah, there's an existing stone wall. We'll offset so that we can get the footings for the new fence 2, maybe 3 feet, and that will run continuously.
And then at the last meeting, there had been a question, but the fire hydrant on the plan, where's that fire hydrant located? Okay. Okay. Perfect. I just want to make sure that was labeled in there. And then I forget if you had mentioned at the last meeting, but with the new plans, with trash pickup, how is that taking place? Is everybody just going to bring their cans out and you're going to have a private truck, or?
Yeah, it has to be private because it's
But is it going to be a dumpster, or is it going to be people are going to have their own cans? Yeah, so I was getting at, are you having a dumpster anywhere? Perfect.
Excuse me, Tom. Just a comment. There's a project that's very similar to this on Warren Street called Drake. It's like 15 consecutive ones of these instead of... Okay. So all I was going to say was that I drive by there many, many times in a given week, and what it appears is that each resident puts out their little trash barrel, and they have a private company come through and pick it up on a given day. So I suspect that'd be something like this is my Right, it's not a municipal trash pickup.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm if there was a dumpster on site or not.
Okay.
All right. That is all my. Oh, and I just but be known, you have the revised site plan, the large plans. I've sent that in the mail to everybody, and then this presentation, I sent you the digital copy as well, and then that's the hard copy you're looking at in front of you as well. And then, as mentioned, they are in front of site plan or third-party review at the moment, so that is being undertaken, and we're awaiting just the results of that.
Any other questions from the board? John, presentation.
Thank you.
If you could just send though the planting list, that would be excellent.
Appointments, Mr. Mello. You're scheduled for an appointment?
It's not listed on the agenda as appointment, but under Stonegate subdivision, or under subdivision. Yeah, just before Mr. Mello continues, I emailed it over. It was in the packets, but Attorney Kelty had provided a letter continuing out the application to a date in early August, and then he just forwarded me on July 13th a letter that is continuing it out until August 26th, this new one. So I have this here right now. If the board would like to, I can pass it along, would like to accept and then vote on whether or not to continue to the August date that's listed there.
You receive this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Motion to accept and then motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to receive a letter from Attorney Kelty dated July 13th in regards to Stonegate subdivision, requesting an extension of time on a time to act until August 26th, 2021. I would move to receive and grant said extension of time.
Second?
Second. Aye.
Within the last week or 10 days, we filed with the Department of Public Services. I'm not sure Jack has filed the plans yet with the board for the revisions of Stonegate, now known as Stonegate II. And that project has now been minimized so that it includes a construction plan of the cul-de-sac of Pearl Street to the north. You go up Ralph Road, Pearl Street goes both ways. There's some new houses on the right-hand side. As you go to the left, you go to the end, it just turns into a dirt road. That road was approved in the 70s by the planning board and never built. The lots exist, and that's that. We filed a construction plan for that roadway that exists and a definitive subdivision, same plans, for Stonegate going into the Innes property with a road known as Alvin's Circle for lots. There are, and I'm working from memory now, there are either 3 or 4 lots on Pearl Street, which would get built, the new Alvin's Circle, and then the lots on Bartholomew Street that were gaining utilities from this. So the vast portion of the property, 13 plus or minus acres, is left fallow as a parcel B. We expect that at some point, maybe sooner than later when they clear up a couple of legal issues as to utilities, we would come in from Innes Road at the condominiums, Redberry Lane, with 3 lots on that 13 acres. So that's where we are. That's kind of just an update. You'll get plans, soon, and we'll continue with our hearings. So if nobody has any questions on that, that's kind of just a brief update. We're good? Oh, Roy's got one.
Thank you, Tom. Just a quick clarification. So, the existing house on Bartholomew that was owned by Mr. Anibal
Polino.
That house is getting demolished.
Yes.
So how many homes are going to end up with frontage on Bartholomew?
It's a loaded question. There are going to be 4 lots that have frontage on Bartholomew Street. Anibal Polino's original house, an A&R lot to the left of that going towards Lynn Street. There'll be 2 lots that are going to have their homes built with driveway access from Pearl Street that actually have their frontage on Bartholomew. So if the question is, how many homes are going to come off of Bartholomew Street into that existing street? 2. The existing Anibal Polino's home will be torn down, a new one be built, and 1 additional.
So the lots will change size, right? Anibal's lot will,
We've
a piece
added-
of that will go with the new one to the left?
Yes. We've added land from the subdivision to Anibal's property to make those 2 lots 20,000 square feet. And they both have 125 feet of frontage. They'll access from there. The other 2 will come off of the new Pearl Street cul-de-sac.
Okay, good. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other questions?
While we have you here, Chris, there was some issues with a pump station in Stonegate 1. What is the situation with pump station in Stonegate 2?
I don't know.
Okay.
That's where we're working through that with Will. I expect that there is still an issue with the water. I believe that the proposed homes in the plans that you're going to receive, they are below the elevation that they can serve water to, and there will not be a pump. That is going out, to Weston and Sampson, but that's where I got to with Will to get to this point. He has an elevation of 170-something. You stop the road there, you don't need a pump. That's why we're down to so few lots.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions from the board? Thank you, Mr. Mello.
It's okay if I ask a couple questions.
Just one more.
How many proposed lots now?
I knew somebody was going to ask that. I think there are 2 on Bartholomew, 4 on Alvin, and I think 4 on the cul-de-sac of Pearl. So how's that? Turns out to 11? 10. I don't have the plan, and it has gone back and forth so many times, even Jack doesn't know.
But less than the original amount.
Less than 15. That's the number we're thinking about.
So just to clarify, though, access is from, you came in front of the planning board a little bit ago, 2 years ago at this point, for
Oh, come on, more.
A&Rs at the end of Pearl Street, but it sounds like those lots are even going to now change.
There is no longer access from the southerly Pearl Street cul-de-sac proposed with this development.
Yes, I understand that.
Okay,
I'm talking
sorry.
about at the paper road you were talking about, or the road that you got approved in the 70s and that you just filed the new
Yes.
permit for. You had filed for A&Rs back there, I think 2 years ago. I'd have to pull it up. But it sounds like with this new plan, because you're taking lots from the subdivision or taking space from that, what you call now Lot B, that those lots may change and that there would have to be
They
more.
change a little bit, but those 2 lots that have frontage on Bartholomew Street, that the houses will be built on Pearl and driveways from Pearl are still the same.
Yeah, okay.
True. My recollection is those 2 triangle-shaped pieces that you're talking
Yeah,
about.
those are gone. The triangle things
those
and
were
the
added
spaghetti
to-
straps, I got rid of those. Now I have boxes behind those lots. I was able, because I had much more land to work with, because Mr. DiBiase bought everything.
Those 2 triangle-shaped pieces that you broke off of the larger lot are what created the 20,000 square foot lots at the end of the cul-de-sac that Drew's talking about. So you needed those at that time to create those 2 lots at the end of Ralph. or
Right, I don't
Pearl
any
Circle.
longer, but I still have the same lots. I just got the land mass behind them, so it's usable. Before, they were zoning creative.
Any other questions, Roy?
Just a comment. I do remember something like what you're talking about, and I think it involved land court and registered land. Some pieces were registered, some pieces were recorded.
Correct.
And that was something we did for that to go and get fixed.
No, that all got done. The registered land never changed. Those are the divisions of the Polino property. Just the unregistered land we've added to them. I was able to get rid of those spaghetti straps and the pieces and put bulk behind these lots so that they're more usable.
Understood.
They're user-friendly.
Yeah, but just to go back to Drew's question that he asked you about total lots, in that number of you, I think it was I know we're not going to try to nail you down exact, we understand that, but where you said 11, that doesn't count the future 4 in from Innis, from the Redberry side.
That's correct.
Okay, and that side is over 170.
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
gonna
The reason we have not filed that at the same time is there are issues with the water pump at Redberry Lane. There are issues with the sewer and drain in Innis Road coming from Sarah's Way that are being resolved through the attorneys. Once those are resolved, I will then do that subdivision.
So you'll very likely in the future have another subdivision plan with a new name,
Stonegate 3.
Stonegate 3, and it'll come in and because that comes up pretty high.
Yeah,
So
but
like-
it
that'll
comes
be
up at 10,
blasted
but we'll
down.
flatten it out 5%. 3 lots, probably.
Three or 4, we don't know.
3, no, only 3.
3.
Where,
Three-
Okay.
Three's
where are
the
you
number.
talking about right now? You're talking about,
So if you go down Sarah's Way,
You go down Sarah's Way, you take a right on Innis, and then you can go Broadmere or Redberry to those triplexes.
okay, so, you're talking in the
We're talking
back now.
straight up
Yeah.
that hill.
Okay.
yeah, that's
And
right.
it sounds like that entrance that was off of Ralph by the existing
No, that's
cul-de-sac,
gone.
That's gone. Nothing's
Right,
going in
but
there.
actually, good point. There's a lot there.
No, there's a piece of land If there was a lot, I'd have a house on it.
I thought there could be a house now that you don't need a 50-foot road.
Not happening.
What's that?
Not happening.
Okey doke. Okay,
You'll see that in the plans, that that's just stubbed out and not going through.
thank you.
Thank you.
So, just to clarify, Chris, just make sure I have my head
I
wrapped
feel like
around-
Columbo.
Yeah, I understand you're going to be presenting new plans, so I think that will clarify for a lot of everybody here. But it sounds like, so just to make sure I'm on board here, you're going to have 10 lots.
You have the plan in front of you?
I have an A&R in front of me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to agree with you 100% if you had it in front of you.
But it sounds like 10 lots, 6 of which are, well, 4 with legitimate frontage, well, they all have legitimate
Yeah,
with frontage on Bartholomew, 2 of which, though, will have frontage on Bartholomew with
I
access.
think there's an extra one you're missing. I think there's one on Pearl that has 125 feet of frontage, then the road, then the 2 that come off of Bartholomew with the frontage. I think there's one more you're missing.
Okay, because you're going to, because Paulino's lot, the 42,000 square foot
I'm coming
lot,
down.
The 42,000 square foot lot's going to be, I'm just looking at the A&R that you filed. The 42,000 square foot lot is going to be split up. So you're going to have what, a lot somewhere like that.
No, that's divided in half. There's
Yeah.
a lot behind that. This becomes one. Those 2 go with that. The road comes in here. There's still a lot there and a lot there. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 8.
So these people will have lots behind them.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You didn't get those plans?
I have not seen those plans. So if you want to forward, so if you want to forward those plans, okay, that would clarifies a lot because I did not.
There will be a filing of, paper filing of appropriate amount of copies and email to everybody with the 10 or 11 sheets and the report. It's all done.
Okay.
I thought Jack had sent it in. Sorry.
No, I've yet to see that. So that will clarify, I think, a lot.
Tom, could I ask Drew a quick question? So, these lots on Bartholomew Street, where they have adequate frontage, why do they need to be part of a subdivision plan? Why can't they just build them? Go get a building permit and build them. In other words, you got an existing home that's been there for 60 years. Right, but you're cutting a piece off that lot to add to the one on the left. Okay, so you can build that one without a subdivision plan. You can build the one to the left of it without a subdivision plan, is that correct? Oh. Yeah. Yes. Okay, all the others have to be, because access is from a different spot, not from the street. Understood. Thank you.
Boulderwood Subdivision, we're still waiting for review from the attorneys and Public Works.
That is correct.
Proposed Stonegate subdivision, we already did that. Correspondence, 5054 Prospect Street, Department of Public Services memo.
That was provided in the packet online. It's a memo from the Department of Public Service. This is a application for, this was 5054 Prospect Street. It was approved by the board. This is the one that crossed from the entrance to the North Shore Mall. This is a memo laying out all of the items that will need to be satisfied for the Department of Public Service per the conditional approval.
Has that been moved along to the builder?
Yes, he was CC'd on it. I would say ask Chris because he just walked in there though. But
Mass Audubon correspondence.
that was also in your meeting packets. It was a letter. It was to the chair, but there was some information in there for the planning board as well.
City Council, recorded memo. That's a memo from the City Council requesting that all our planning board meetings be televised.
Yep, and then there were special permit approvals in there as well. This was on the online meeting packet. But then since our meeting, I have received a few items that I would like to share with the board. First is from July 19th from the City Council's meeting. This is a motion sheet ordered by the City Council, then ordinance amending section 1013 entitled Chairman Personnel Reports Organization Meeting of the Code of the City of Peabody to be adopted as advertised and read. It is that by adding this new subsection D as follows: all meetings of the planning board shall be televised live and made available for public viewing on PBD Access Telecommunications, Inc. network and or RCN cable network or their successor entities. I believe you can provide as much, if the board wishes to discuss.
I don't think anyone is opposed to this. We seem to be running into some difficulties with scheduling, like the auditorium. There's a lot of conflicts there, and we have mentioned several times about DPS and possibly the Higgins School for meetings. The Higgins School is set up to be televised. DPS would require some setup to be televised. And I think if the council is really wanting this to happen, they should actually appropriate some funding to set up television equipment in DPS, and that could be used for other things too, not just our meetings. But that was a meeting place for a long time, and it's a very good meeting place. That's all I have at this time.
Any other comments on that?
I really don't understand how the City Council can direct the work of an independent board that does not report to them, quite frankly. I mean, I agree. I think we should try to make our meetings as transparent and available to people as possible, but I don't think that the City Council has jurisdiction over the planning board.
I agree with you 100%. So.
I concur.
Would the board like me to draft a letter to the City Council or another means?
I don't have a problem with televising the meetings. It's probably a good idea. But we do seem to be bumping into roadblocks where our meetings get postponed or canceled because there is no place available. And Dr. Otto's correct. We do not work for the City Council. We work for the citizenry. The City Council should allot some money to set up cameras in DPS, or we need to get access to Higgins. I'm sorry, not Higgins, the Higgins School, not the auditorium here. It really kind of burns me when we have to cancel a meeting because it conflicts with another entity, and that should not be.
John, I would 100% agree with you. I believe that everybody on this board's scheduled time to show up to a meeting well in advance, knowing exactly when the meeting is and when you make time for it, that we shouldn't have to have the rug pulled out from under us because someone else is using the room for some other purpose. Is that...
Somebody has to put the money, somebody's got to put the money where the mouth is right now, so.
Mr. Chairman, could I make one additional comment on that front? If we're going to meet with microphones and things are going to be broadcast over Zoom and public access television, we've got to have people like Mr. Mello step up to the microphone. We can't have a back and forth with audience members because nobody in the public who wishes to see it in a different format is able to hear it. Yes.
Got a little learning curve when it comes to microphones and TV and stuff, so.
Mr. Chair, and then very quickly, also, we received regional notices as well, if the board wishes to receive those. There's 2 pages there.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to receive 2 late communications. I believe one is from Middleton. They're very small for me to read. Can anyone read these? Drew, help me out here.
Yeah, there's 2, there's one on the first page and then there's 3 on the other. The first one is Middleton, the one on its own sheet, and then they're all actually from Middleton. It is the Middleton Zoning Board of Appeals decisions.
Move to receive.
Second on that?
Second. Aye.
Aye. Mr. Chairman, excuse me. Sorry, Tom. Regarding the matter about the televised meetings, I mean, within the packet that Drew provided, it's pretty clear and succinct that it's an ordinance that's been adopted as law. Do we need to make a formal request or a motion to provide us adequate meeting space as a follow-up to? I mean, it's effective. It's already effective that these are required to be televised. So, you know, to John's point, do we need to? In order to draft something for you to send up to the city council to request appropriate meeting space with you know, technology, does that? Do you need? I mean, this.
Yeah, I can
is a real
draft a
thing.
letter, and yeah, I can draft a letter and provide that to the board, to the council.
I don't know if the city council can just make a rule. Just because it's on paper that says approved doesn't mean it's been done.
It's an ordinance. They went through a very lengthy process of amending, you know, Chapter 10, Article 2 of the City of Peabody. You know, it's.
I'm not a lawyer. Don't we operate under a state statute?
I don't know, it's introduced, it was adopted, it's publication of adoption, it's got a legal notice, it's a thing. So we need to just, you know, if we want to make a, like I said, if we want to formally request that Drew make some sort of request to provide adequate and technologically acceptable meeting space as part of adopting the ordinance, I think we need to.
I don't think any of us has a problem with it being televised.
No.
It's the venue. On a predictable basis, with a schedule that gets published in December of the preceding year for the following year.
Agreed. To your point, you were discussing how last week on Wednesday we found out that our meeting on Thursday could not occur in this room because of the city council special meeting. And therefore, it's unacceptable for us to utilize the same room with the same technology as they use for that purpose. Our schedules are just as important as theirs.
That's right.
So, yeah, I think I'd like to make a motion to formally, you know, request that the city identify and make available to us technologically acceptable meeting space for our televised meetings to occur on our schedule, the first and third Thursday of every month, per our, you know, agenda and calendar that we set forth the prior year.
Second.
Until that can happen, how can we all want to meet on television. We've been doing it for 16 months anyway.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a comment before we vote? So I want the board to know, and I want the public to know that, you know, during this meeting here, I'm just several feet away from the speaker up there, and I heard half of this gentleman's presentation. In order for us to to look at things objectively and and to make decisions, clear decisions, we need to hear the whole story. I'm telling you, I got half the story tonight, and and I'm voting yes, and we're making motions and with half the story. This isn't right. I don't have a problem with us being televised. I think it's a great idea. But geez, is there any other board besides the planning board that's being shuffled around because are we getting kicked off because there's a scheduling conflict? Or are other boards? I'd like to know that. I'd like to know if we're the ones that are getting the brunt of the shuffle because lack of space and opportunity to speak into the microphones and be on cable. Because I don't know of any other board that's being shuffled and moved on to a different day. And, many of us on this board have been here for years. And we enjoy what we're doing, and we're committed to doing a good job. But give us the basics tools. Give us a room where we can hear.
I would agree with Joe that the acoustics in here are pretty bad.
And also, rules and regulations of the planning board that are published and accepted call for us to meet on the first and the third Thursday of each month. And if they cannot supply that date with an adequate facility, then we either have to change our date and get a facility and change our rules and regulations.
Just to clarify, I think it comes down to, one, the meeting space, but also I think second, it comes down to personnel from PBD Access Television to help run the meeting. So I think that has to be put out there as well, that I don't know if they have people to do 2 meetings at once, but does Matt, do you want to make a motion and then have somebody second it and then we can have a vote?
Yeah, we already requested that let it be submitted.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Matt,
I actually seconded it when he made it.
seconded when he made it. All those in favor of sending a letter to the city council requesting facility, time, and adequate technological improvements? Unanimous.
There is something we lost when we left our little room, was that conference table. We could dump plans out on that table, all gather around, all talk, chatter, ask the petitioners questions right there. And perhaps in our new venue, wherever that might be, there could be a table set up with a camera and a microphone on the table so they could catch all the comments and see actually what we're looking at, so.
These small desks do not lend themselves to 24 by 36 inch drawings.
I also just want to put it out there, though, as well, is that, with COVID and with kind of unprecedented times that we're in, there's different things that are changing, constantly. So there's different things that we need to meet as required by the state. So I think for the time being, this is the way that we can satisfy all of those by having our meetings at the moment in the Wigan. And right here, but I just want everyone to know that there's stuff that are changing. It's constantly changing, and we need to adapt with that. So I think, it would be awesome if we could have our own space that, has all the technological stuff that we need and they have all that done. But again, things are changing and that we need to try to satisfy them as best as possible and meet them. So for the time being, this is where we'll be meeting.
We can't satisfy our rules and regulations if we have the meetings on Wednesday.
Yeah, and so that special meeting that took place, that was a special meeting, and we also were trying to figure out how to have the meeting in person and on Zoom as well. So that took a little bit to get that going. So we're meeting today on a Wednesday, but we'll be right back to our regular Thursday meetings. In that, I think, like you just said, we can write a letter and we can ask that the city council, if we're adapting, that we're meeting on Thursdays, we have to be in this room, that, like we just mentioned, the times are changing and that, a special meeting could not take place then on a Thursday at 7 p.m. on a first or third Thursday, because that's the time that this planning board's meeting. But I will draft that letter.
Any other matters before the board?
Just a brief discussion, I guess. I saw something today in one of your emails, and I was pretty surprised, shocked, and saddened a bit about the Birchwood or Birch. Is it Birchwood?
Birch Hill.
Birch Hill subdivision, problems with basins, problems with backyards washing away, and all these other things. And I guess the surprise part was that it seems that this happened like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, maybe more, and we're hearing about it today in an email. I would have thought that a project that was under construction, under a subdivision, control, we would have heard about this. It doesn't seem at all insignificant to me what's going on up there. They basically put a freeze. Oh my God, excuse me. Sorry about that. They basically put a freeze on all building permits and all certificates of occupancy, which is great, because it'll make him do what he's supposed to do. But I was kind of surprised that we're just hearing about it today.
If we had heard about it sooner, one of us, I certainly would have taken a shot up there and checked it out.
One of us lives there.
Well, it's a full report.
Yeah, so I'm glad that something's being done, and I'm glad that there's some teeth put in, and that no more building permits and no more certificates of occupancy. So I'm pretty certain that things are going to get done. So thank goodness.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all.